Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of So You Want to Start a Business. Today, we have another great guest to interview today with a lot of great information for you that I think that you'll really love. If you are a business owner or somebody that is looking to start a business, this is great content for you, and I hope that you'll enjoy it. And consider hitting the like, subscribe, and share button so that we can get this information out to all the other business owners and those that are looking to start a business. We do have a sponsor today, and today's sponsor is Firstbase.io. If you are looking to start a business and you want to get your business quickly registered and set up as an LLC, get your bank account set up and all that, and you want to do it on your own, but you need a guide, Firstbase.io is your guide and best place for you to go to. So if you can go to Firstbase.io, then use the promo code BLS15. That's BLS for Business Lifeline Services 15. You'll get a great deal on it. I will list in the description below all the great things that you'll get for being a business owner using their platform, and we'll get you started on that and get your business to the jumpstart that you know you want to get to. So with that, again, hope you like, subscribe, share, and get this information out to everybody so that we can have a great business networking group to have great success for all of us. Hope you enjoy the new guest. And now, on to our interview with our great guest. And now, on to our interview with our great guest.
Let's see who Jamie has in store for us today on So You Want to Start a Business.
Giving you a little bit of insight, and today our guest is Pepper Bethel. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So please tell us a little bit about yourself and where you were raised and a little bit about your past.
Sure. So my name is Pepper Bethel. I am born and raised in Southern California, best state ever. And I was in the military, the U.S. Navy, for 8 years. After the military, I was lucky enough to become the best assistant to all financial advisors. So that was my first job after the military. Is I worked as an assistant in a financial planning firm. So that was kind of my foray into financial planning. So that got me interested on how things work, retirement planning, taxes, accounting, business development. And just 23 short years later, here I am today.
So you talked about you being a veteran, and I know that a lot of people, whenever they go into the military and think about going into the military, there's a lot of things that go into it. So what were some of your factors of deciding to join the military and then the Navy specifically?
Well, it was all about family for me. So I come from a long line of service members, from my father to all of my uncles. So for me, I saw it firsthand in what that meant. And then as I grew into it, from a little girl, I wanted to be in the military. So for me, it was just a natural progression, as a part of a legacy of my family, wanting to be in the Navy. So I was happy to fulfill that. For me, serving in that way means so much to me as a person, as an American, to kind of fight for our freedoms. So being a service member is something that I'm extremely proud of.
And we definitely thank you for your service as well. So tell us a little bit about your hometown where you grew up, and kind of, do you think that your success has come in spite of your hometown or because of where you grew up?
Well, I was born and raised in Southern California. I was born in Los Angeles, although I know a lot of people aren't really born in California and Los Angeles, but I was. And then so I was raised all over Southern California. So for me, I think any success that I may have garnered over the years has a lot to do with me and my faith, and not necessarily where I grew up. So I'm very proud of my faith. I'm very proud of looking first within first for your own strengths to see, what you want to do out of life. And I was kind of taught that early on in my raising, was that, you can do whatever you want to do. And having that as the foundation of who I am as a woman or as a person, meant a lot to me. So again, as I looked as far as my life and what did I want to do as I grew up is that I made those own choices for myself to say, hey, this is what I want to do, this is where I want to go, and I know that the sky's the limit.
Especially with some, I've grown up, I was born and raised in a very small town.
Hmm.
Coming from a big place like Los Angeles, it seems like you could go one of two ways. Either you could kind of shell yourself because there's so many people around and
Hmm.
thinking, well, I'm only a little fish in a big pond, or
Hmm.
you can see all the opportunities that are around in that big city, uh, and think of all the things that you could do to succeed in that. What kind of led you to that point, or that belief that you can succeed compared to being shuttered in and just kind of being one of the multitude?
I think it's just a part of our individual blueprint or makeup. I really have to say that is that if you were look at other members of my family, they're not the same. So this is all specific to me. This is what God made me. This is how God made me. So with regard to that, I always knew that there was something beyond my little circle. There was always something bigger and better. You know, you look at TVs, and that's your first indication of what you can be, right? I grew up
Right.
like everybody else, with, Family Ties, the Cosby Show, all things like that that told you that there is a place beyond Los Angeles County and you can have it. And so, again, that's always stuck with me. And like I said, just having that determination, that's just a part of my natural blueprint of who I am. So, like I said, me, my faith, and my own determination I knew that there was so much more opportunities out there that I would certainly meet my goals.
So going back to your military, we hear so many horrible stories of homeless veterans, people who really have trouble coming out of the military, not being able to find jobs and stuff like that. Uh, what kind of experience did you have leaving the military and looking for a job compared to what the stories that we've heard of other people, other veterans?
Well, I appreciate that question. Thank you. I think that it's important to note that the military, it's not easy. It is hard. And it is hard, not just regular, just going through basic, going through being away from your family, the training that you go through. It's definitely difficult. But um, I also want to say that it also kind of gives you something inside of you. It also you're turning into something. You're transitioning to something else. So I think that once you kind of shed that old skin and then you kind of have that new skin, it's a whole new different world. It really is. But initially, is that transition from your parents' house to the military? Is it hard? Absolutely, absolutely, it is. Again, I felt that same way as well, coming from being very sheltered and having my own little circle, my family, my friends, my neighborhoods, my communities, going into something large. You're getting on a plane for the first time. You're traveling 3,000 miles away from anything that you've ever known. You've now met, 50 of your new best friends in 5 seconds. You have to form that, brotherhood or that sisterhood with these people. So, yeah, absolutely, it's tough. Absolutely, they're trying to build you into something amazing.
Mhm.
And then once you understand that it's no longer about you as an individual, now it's about you and this brotherhood. It's about you and this sisterhood. It's about your battalion. Once you understand that, then it's easy because, like I said, then you're with your brothers and sisters and you're a part of a team, you're a part of a family, and you guys are all working toward the same mission and the same goal.
And that's one of the things that I kind of value and try to have my kids play organized sports. Now, military and sports are totally two different things, but the idea behind it is the part of the hard work that you end up putting into it. The
Mhm.
idea of it sucks sometimes. It's how
Mhm.
hard you have to work, and you
Right.
don't think that you're
All the
really getting any.
practicing, right? You got to
You
go
don't
every
think that
night. You
you're
got to
getting
go
any benefit
practice.
out of it or anything like that, but
Mhm.
then you get out there and then you start to bond with the people that have been working their butt off right beside you, and it kind of at arms. And I play college football, high school,
Mhm.
and stuff like that. And to this day, my best friends are the ones that I played football with, just because of that, because of the bond that you kind of get through fighting through that
Yeah.
adversity, I guess you could say.
That's so true.
Uh,
That bond means everything to you.
Absolutely. So what do you see as far as where you came out and your attitude compared to like some of the other veterans and their hardships whenever they end up coming out of the military?
Hmm. I think unfortunately, not every service member who comes out has the same support system, which is a bit of a shame sometimes, right? So it
Mm,
really depends on what support system that you currently have during that transition, because transitioning out is another very important time in your life, right? Because now for me, it was 8 years of being with these people who understood me, who had the same rhythms and the same movements that I had. And then you go from that to, oh, I have to go back to the civilian world where
mm,
I'm not wearing a uniform. I have a different job. I don't know how this life works. I've never paid rent. I don't know how rent works. I don't know how taxes work. Then again, you've met with this other kind of big shock of your life. And so again, if you don't have the necessarily support system that you need to make that transition, that's where some of us kind of go in different directions, right? Some of
mm.
us say, oh, I don't know what to do, or if I don't know where to go. And keep in mind that you may have been from San Diego, California, but when they drop you off, you're in, Gulfport, Mississippi. So
Hmm.
that also comes into play too, isn't it? Now you're in a different world. You're in a different, landscape. And it's like, how do you navigate that? And the
Absolutely.
people that you had as your brothers and sisters, they move on to the next duty station, they move on to the next ship, right? And then so you're alone. You're
Mm.
alone. You don't have the same family that you had when you went in, and you don't have the same family that you built when you got out. So again, if you don't have that support system of people in your life, then things can go sideways really quickly.
And this is totally off base as far as business, but the idea of the background of a military business person or anybody for that matter that comes out of the military, what would you kind of really tell of the people that your support system whenever you come out of the military? What can the family members kind of expect, and the best way for them to be able to handle that, to let them transition without you kind of forcing them to say, hey, you should be doing this whenever they're going through their own transition.
I think that you really have to take each person as they come. I think everyone's experiences are different, right? Some people maybe come out of war, some people don't come out of war, some people come out of isolation. There's certain jobs that you're not around a lot of people. So that's very different for you to come to being around nobody for 18 hours a day, you're around no one, right? You go back to maybe your barracks and you're around very few people. And then you come out into this world and there's like 1,000 people, so much noise, so much all around you. So
All right, so what system do you use for booking?
what do I use
For
for what?
bookkeeping? For bookkeeping.
Oh, for bookkeeping, oh, we use QuickBooks.
And what kind of system do you have for taxes now that
We do have a particular tax software. It's called Drake software.
and what moment did you know that you made the right decision to be a business owner?
I think I've always known. I don't think I ever had any sort of, doubt or anything like that because, again, let's go back to that military service is that what's different about people in the military and people who are civilians is the work ethic, right? I think what I found over the years is that we're used to coming in at 9 and I leave at 5, but in the military, you're always at work. Always. There's never a time that you're like, all right, it's shutting down. If they call you at 8:30, then you're on at 8:30. They call you at 3:30 in the morning, you're on at 3:30 in the morning. So it really doesn't matter that you're always on. And I think that work ethic is kind of what stood the test in time for me as far as regarding any business that I've set up.
Don't.
Right, exactly. So again, what I found, we're going to go back to the military for a minute, is that what I find what's difference between military service members and people in the civilian world is discipline, is that hard work ethic is kind of what I found. And so again, when you carry that trait over into the civilian world with regard to business ownership, it's a whole new ball game. It's very different. I don't have a set time. I don't go in at 9 and leave at 4. I don't take an hour for lunch. That's not how it works. You put in the time, you put in the due diligence, you put in the research, you put in the effort, and then you kind of glean what you get out of that. So I think that's been me and probably a lot of other service members as well, is that again, we don't necessarily look at the clock, we don't look at the time, we invest our time because we want to, and that's what makes us feel good about knowing what we're doing moving forward with regard to our goals. Now I know that I don't have to just put in 8 hours to reach this goal. That's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to put in as much time as I can. I'm going to read books. I'm going to go to classes. I'm going to, find mentors. I'm going to collaborate. I'm going to partner with people until I get where I need to be. So again, like I was saying, never really kind of been, deterred by anything with regard to being a small business owner. It's always been so exciting to me to move in this space. It's really, really exciting.
Mm. So let's get into the good stuff. So, in your bio and stuff, you refer to the diversity that you have in your businesses and stuff like that. Kind of tell me a little bit about what led you to being diverse instead of concentrating on one, and did you concentrate on one and then spread out?
Right. No, really good question. Thanks, Jamie. I think it's all because of my business mentor and my business partner, who is Morteza Gallambor. He's been doing this since longer than I've been alive. And once I partnered with him, then everything just made sense. Everything just opened up. And what he taught me with regard to business is that sometimes you may start off with a certain mission or a certain business plan saying, hey, I'm only going to do taxes, right? I'm just going to do taxes. Over the course of years, your clients are going to tell you based on the services that they ask for what you need to do, right? So again, you may start off my business plan, I'm just doing taxes. But what if you meet someone who's a small business owner and they're like, hey, I really need help with my financials. How do I do that? I need to get a balance sheet and a profit and loss. Well, naturally, it's a natural progression for you now to add accounting, bookkeeping into that same business model, right? Because again,
Mm-hmm.
over time, you have to evolve. You can't just necessarily make money and be profitable year after year with a business model that just makes business for 4.5 months out of the year, right? You
Exactly.
have to evolve. And so what I learned from him was that, hey, over the years, I may have started this way, but over time, my clients said to me, I need help here. I need help with financial planning. I need help with what. And then once you go to a couple of downturns, right? 2008, COVID, then you
Mm-hmm.
understand just fine where your revenue comes in, right? Then it becomes all encompassingly important, right? So again,
Right.
that's how it really started with me, is having a really great business partner who'd already gone through those ebbs and those flows.
And that's the way that I kind of started my business. My business is Business Lifeline Services, and it's more or less a I call it the lifeline for businesses. Whatever they kind of see that their business needs, I try to
Mhm.
refer that. I started out with SEO, business
Oh,
funding, some of that and stuff like. But I also put in there of if you want to, if there's something else that you see as a hurdle,
mhm.
whether it's credit card processing or something like that, that your business, Facebook ads, whatever, to let me
Mhm.
know because that tells me where my market is.
Yes.
And also the great thing about having this channel and getting to work with great people like you and other guests that have been on here is that we network. We have a business
Yes.
network to where if I can't service your needs, I can definitely get you in contact with somebody that can help you. And I think that's important with especially starting out in businesses to know that you do have a support system uh, in other business owners a lot of times
Mhm.
because as a small business owner, at least for me, I like to see other people succeed, and it's not just because that's my business, but still that's why I went into the business that I did, is the idea of helping somebody. See, especially coming up from a small community, there's so many uh, businesses that come and go. You see the rotation of them, and it's like, well, what did they need to be able to succeed? Because we do like, we like that the feeling of being a business owner, and I'm sure that they went into it with the same thing. But did somebody reach that hand out to them? Uh, so,
It's so true. Sometimes you need a little help, right? If you're only selling widgets and then you get
mhm,
hit with a catastrophe like a pandemic, then you're going to
mhm.
have to, pivot and readjust, right? And then sometimes
Yeah,
if you don't know that and if you don't have a community of other business owners to help you realize that, then you're going to fall by the wayside. So that's why we have
and
to, as a community, we have to help each other.
yeah, and it's like swimming upriver. You got that current coming against you, and it's great to have somebody that's already swam that distance to be able to tell you, "Oh, I faced that. It's not as hard as it seems. Let's do this."
Hmm.
You can to help you. So
Absolutely.
how do you and your business help assist small businesses in their development and to develop a growth strategy?
I think over the years, what we formed, like I said before, is like we've had these build outs of different divisions within TPI. So we've been lucky enough to start off with the tax and the accounting, the bookkeeping of it all, the financial planning, and then probably in the last years we really kind of honed in on business development. Because as you said before, when these companies come to us, they're in, various different shapes. Some of them are doing really well, some of them are not doing so well. So what we find, like you said, in trying to help these businesses, is we're like, hey, you know what? We see year after year, this is your revenue, right? But we see that during this 6 month period, it gets a little lean during those times. So then we come up with a plan and say, hey, you know what? We want to help you. We understand that with your trucking business, maybe it's only good when it's warmer months, right? And then when it comes to the colder months, maybe now we have to come up with a plan. So like I said, over the years, what we've come in, and so we'll come in and just revamp it and say, hey, what do we got to do for marketing? What do we got to do? We have to, bring in more people. Do we need to, bring in this other person, and now you're going to partner with this person. And so now we're going to do some snow removal, right? So for those cold months, now you can just strap a little scraper on the top of that truck. And then now we got a whole new business revenue coming in, right? So again, it was just a natural progression, again, saying that how can we help you be more profitable? We're not going to just look at the numbers and say, oh, sucks to be you. That's it, moving along. No, we're going to be like, okay, what's happening? Let's have a talk. What do you want to do? What do you want to be doing? So again, like I said, over the last 10 years, we've really kind of focused in having that built out division just with regard to business development, just with regard to business development when it pertains to government contracting as well. So again, if you have a business and over years you're like, I'm renting these trucks out, but that's all I'm doing. I'm just renting the trucks out. And it's like, well, how about this? We can use those same trucks for transportation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we get a transportation government contract, so now we're adding another revenue stream, right? And now we're helping the business be more profitable, be more successful, right? Bring in more revenue and have more lasting power.
And I think that the big thing that whenever we talk about growth strategies, it's you're making a plan. It's not you're facing. It's planning out into the future of what that plan or what that issue is going to be, not react to the issue.
Yes.
I guess you could say. So it's just like me with SEO. There's some businesses that whenever I go and say your website isn't bringing in your customers, and they're like, well, we're really busy right now. I'm like, but are you busy all the time? Well, there is an off season, so come and talk to me then. I'm like, that's not the time that you want to do it. You got to go on and get the steps going on so that it's in place, so it'll help you through those tough times rather than be reactionary and you have that dead period. And I think that's one of the things that, at least for me, that I try to preach to business owners.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right.
So starting a business, one of the biggest things that for me, the biggest thing that took me forever to actually decide that I'm going to make the jump is the idea of dealing with government and regulations and taxes and everything like that. Just can you share some of your experience in navigating some of the complexities of the governmental contracting and regulations and requirements and stuff at that point?
Right. Oh, absolutely. Thank you for this question. I think this is a really, really appropriate topic. So here at TPI, we have a team, and I'm very lucky to have this team that I have. So I have lawyers, I have, business consultants go in and have to read the fine print, right? So they go over and they read the fine print, because when I work with new startups or entrepreneurs or small business owners just starting out, I like to come from a place of education. So as I'm coming from a place of education, when they're in my training program, I like to go over all of these things to let them know this is what this means. Again, let's first talk about the business entity that you've created. Because one of the biggest missteps that I see are people who are super excited, like during COVID, I'm super excited. I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to start my own, driving business, but the misstep is they're setting up their businesses incorrectly. So again, I like to start first there. How did you set it up? Who worked with you? Why did you do this LLC? Blah, blah, blah. Or again, they've set it up saying that, oh, I'm going to, sell widgets. But when I find out what they're doing, they're actually, have a driving service. And I'm like, that doesn't match. We need to make sure that what we've listed as our business activity code, is the same all the way through. Again, because that's when you start to get some little missteps with the IRS. So again, we want to make sure. So that's where I go in first. Again, starting from the very beginning, starting from the creation and the formation of that business, and then we move forward from there. And depending on what their goals are, hey, my goal is to grow in this amount of time. My goal is I want this much revenue. My goal is I need to attract more, candidates. So whatever that goal is, that's where we put together that plan. And again, I'm very happy that you brought up a plan, because everything I do involves planning. You have to be methodical and have a strategy with regard to those steps. You can't just wake up on a Tuesday and be like, well, this is what I'm going to do. Let me get it all together. It's like, no, and you have to do your research. Some of these people have so much excitement and so much passion that they forget that they got to do a little research. You may know
Yeah.
everything about fixing a car, but you don't know anything about having a car business, right?
And that's it.
So
That's
that's what I like to do.
people who watch my channel will hear me preach that every time. And a lot of I came from reading Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Yes,
The idea
yes,
of, because you bake brownies doesn't mean it's a business because you're baking the
no,
brownies.
no.
It's you're actually working instead of actually running the business. So
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Exactly. I like that too. Again, you have good teachers and you have bad teachers, right? So again, I like to preach the same thing too, is like, who are you going to use as your teachers?
right, just because you know about brownies, it doesn't know you know about the business of selling the brownies. That's where
Exactly,
you got to
exactly.
educate
That's
yourself.
a very important distinction. So again, like I said, me and my team, we like to certainly come from a place of education first to let people know, what do you want to do? What do you want to do with this? What do you want this to be? People come up to me every day, Pepper, I want to start a business. I want to start That's great. What are you going to do? How much time are you going to dedicate?
Hmm.
How are you gonna, if you're gonna be a cook, where's the kitchen gonna be?
Yeah.
There's all these, rules and regulations and things from the FDA. What do you? Then it's like, oh, it turns out this is not necessarily a business, is it? Or
Hmm.
hey, I don't have any money, but I want this trucking business. It's like, well, then I guess you don't have a trucking business yet. Sometimes you have to crawl before you can walk. So stay at that job
Yep.
at Amazon until you get some money and then you can afford to buy that truck and then go. Don't just quit your job on a Thursday and be like, this is what I'm going to do, and then try to beg people for money and capital
Yep.
because you don't have it. That's not how it is. Again, planning, planning, planning.
So we talk about your military background again, and I love the part of you because I think that, and again, it's the part of, I don't try to like to compare, but again, this time I'm kind of comparing a farmer or somebody that's worked on the farm, that talk about the discipline of things that you have to get it done, so you
Yes.
figure out a way to get it done. There is
Mm-hmm.
no footing around it, so you kind of build that discipline. Uh,
Yes.
with the military, they're not going to sit there and hold your hand as you climb the wall through uh, basic training or anything like that. You got to figure out how to get it done yourself. How does the experience that you have there of learning the discipline and stuff for there kind of come over into how you actually handle business owners, of teaching them that same kind of trait, and how you handle them? And because I think that a lot of times people need tough love,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of people won't necessarily do that. And to me, being from the background I am, and you with the military, it kind of seems like that would be one of the kind of ways that, we're just speaking truth at this point, of, like you've kind of said, this is where you're at. You want to be here, but the way that you're wanting to get there isn't the path that you want to take.
You're absolutely right. You do have to go in and give them definitely some real conversations. This is not fluff. This is this person's business. And it's not only their business, it's their livelihood. It's the livelihood of 10, 12, 15 other people. So what, again, like I said, when I come from a place of education and I let them know, hey, if you go down this road the way you are right now, 6, 7, 8 months, we're gonna go sideways real quick. However, if we implement this and go down this road, this is where we're going to go. This is more is in align with what the goals, and the expectations you have, what you want, where you want to take your business. So again, it's a very serious conversation, and again, and it's very humbling sometimes for the business owner, because a lot of times, they've been doing this 20, 30, 40 years, and it's ingrained in them, right? It's part of their DNA at this point. So again, to hear some of that, sometimes for some people, it's a little bit hard to hear, but I think, again, if we focus on what the goal is, and that's what we're trying to do, that's what the TPI team does. We focus on what the goal is. If you tell me, Pepper, these are my 3 pain points, then those are what I'm going to address, and that's what I'm
Mhm.
going to solve. So I think once we have those questions, it's easier for them to understand because I'm speaking to what their pain points are. And I'm saying, hey, I can relieve the pressure. Let's do this.
And kind of going on that point of, I've had guests on here that kind of covered some of this information, but it's great to hear different topics, or different a different way of saying the same thing a lot of times. and there's more than one way you can skin a cat. That's what I've always been heard. you know, uh, uh, tell me a little bit about. I want to let everybody hear this again, as far as explaining the process of when you're starting your business, of how you should categorize your business as you grow. I of after you grow so much, you get your infrastructure going. The idea of getting an S corp to be able to take a little bit more advantage of the way that the taxes work, but knowing that you kind of have to get a little bit more of a infrastructure set up on your business properly before you actually get to take advantage of those.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And like I said, that's really the biggest misstep that I see is that people do not understand what sort of business structure they need to have first. So the conversation that I have with my clients or people that I consult with, and it's all mostly initially around revenue. So say you say, hey, I want to sell pies. I have my day job where I work, as an admin assistant for this large construction company, but I want to sell pies. So I'm like, okay, what do you want to do with it? So like, hey, Pepper, I've been selling pies now at church every week, and I'm getting a couple of dollars. Okay. So then I ask what that looks like. So in a month, how much are you making? Oh, I'm making, $1,200. And I'm like, okay, that is still just a hobby. You should not set up a business. Do not create an LLC. Do not pass go, do not collect $200, right? So again, that is just a hobby. You come to me in 8 months and you say, all right, Pep, this is what I got. Right now, it's happening everywhere. I got 2 friends doing it. And I'm like, okay, how much money are you making? Okay, I'm making, I made $11,000. And I'm like, again, still a hobby. For me, it's about how much money that you're bringing in. Don't think, because here's my other thing. That's only 6 to 8 months. 6 to 8 months, you've been doing it. Within that first year, you made $11,000. What happens if next year you go to do it and say your daughter has baby? Your daughter has baby and now you're going to become a grandparent. What's going to happen to you baking the pies? Are you still going to be baking pies at that same frequency? Are you still going to be using Sister Ruby down at the church? Are you still going to be going, things change. So that's why it says, I want you to check in with me every 5 to 6 months and you tell me how this hobby is working out. Once I start to see big numbers and that you've dedicated, Pepper, I have a kitchen. So I have this kitchen here and I use this kitchen over here and I'm there. Now I got 2 ladies from the church and now I'm selling it here. And I'm like, okay, now we're going someplace, but I'm still going to see how it's working out. So just with that information alone, I still don't recommend that you start a business because it's not a business yet. Again, once you go and then you do a couple more years and you're like, okay, Pepper, I'm now part-time at the other job. And now I'm putting more time. Okay, now I'm a little bit more impressed. Now I'm thinking, okay, we're getting there. So again, the moral to my story is that you have to take each individual situation as it comes. But for me, what I'm looking for before you actually start a business, before you actually form a business, before it actually is a business, I'm going to look at 2 things. I'm going to look at how much money you're making and how much time you're dedicating consistently, not just during, the summertime when they got the church cookouts. I'm talking about year after year, how much time you're dedicating to it, and then how much money that you're making. Because even if, what I look at too is even if that you start to make money, because say again, 15,000, that's still not enough. That's still something I would just put on your Schedule C. I wouldn't even create a business. I wouldn't create a sole member LLC, none of that. I would still just put it as a hobby that you make some money from on that Schedule C. Once you start making serious money year after year and you've now dedicated a lot more time and resources, then that's when I'm going to say this might be a business. Because keep in mind, if I see year after year that it's like ups and downs, like during the summer when I have time, that's when I do it. Then that to me that's not a business. Because if you go set up your business, you form it, you domicile it in, Kentucky, you go with the IRS, you get your EIN number, then every year you need to pay for that business license, right? And then what happens is once you're on the schedule with the IRS, every year you need to file a business tax return. Now, a business tax return costs more than a personal tax return. So now you got money every year from the state. Now you got extra money that you're paying with your business tax return, right? And now you're going to need to act, like you said, now you need to talk to somebody about how do I keep track of this money? What do I
Hmm.
do? Do I use QuickBooks? Do I use Sage? Do I use an Excel spreadsheet? So again, that's what I'm saying. And some of that deters people. I don't want you to spend money unnecessarily if it's not a real business. And to me, I'm looking at time you're dedicating to it and how much money you're making. Because again, what I want you to do once you get on that radar of those people, then it's a whole new different ball game. So that's why I
Hmm.
say I examine everyone very clearly to see if it's a real business. And most times it's not.
And that's a perfect segue to the next question as far as uh, the monetary side of it. Uh, a lot of people just kind of dip their toe into it and say they got a business. Uh, but there's some of them want to get started, but they don't have a lot of capital. They're bootstrapping it more or less.
Right.
And what step do you kind of tell them? Because at some point you have to end up dedicating yourself to it to be able to
Mm-hmm.
invest. And to
Yeah.
do that, you got to kind of take a step. You got to
Yes.
take a leap of faith at that point that what you're doing is going to be able to cover the investment that you put in. Kind
Mm-hmm.
of tell, how do you coach somebody in that path of telling them at some point you have to invest in yourself compared to, okay, do you just bootstrap it and as you make that income, store that income, and then reinvest into the next step?
Absolutely. And that's exactly, how it goes oftentimes is that we are counseling them. And like I said, I'm coming from a place of education, so I'm letting them know if you want to move in this direction with regard to being a startup or being a small business owner, there are some certain sacrifices that you're going to have to make. And that is your money. Is that money that you put into it. So again, oftentimes you're not going to be able to get capital from any other banking institution. So you have to be planning, right? You got to plan because if you're on your Amazon job, then you need to be working overtime, putting some money, socking some money away so that when you do go over here and you say, hey, I want to, do these pies, then you have money for the kitchen. Because guess what? You need a real kitchen. You can't be doing this, in your kitchen where your cat's jumping on the counter. You can't do that then. So again, I like to say that you kind of have to straddle it. And that's what every small business owner has done. That's what I've done. That's what you've done. That's what everyone does from the beginning of time. But you have to understand it is a sacrifice and you cannot give up. If this is really what you want to do,
Mm-hmm.
if this is really where you want to go, then that should be your focus. Your focus should be like, hey, you know what? I'm working 16-hour days over at Amazon. I'm socking some money away because you have to have some small capital to move forward in any aspect, whether it's you paying someone to do your website, you're paying to get, hey, I have to order some parts or I have to, get some business cards or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
So again, you need some money. But again, I think it's important in the beginning that you have to straddle that line and you have to make sure that that is your focus, that is your number one focus, because that's going to let you know that you are serious about it.
And on that, also on the note, talking about investment and planning, I think that a lot of people kind of get the idea of, well, I can get a business loan, and then it's not tied to my personal stuff as a startup, and they
Right.
don't understand that a true business loan, they're going to take 2 years of
Yeah.
your income from that business to base it off of. If you're looking at getting a loan as a startup, they're going to base that off of your credit history, your
Yes.
personal credit history. And a
Absolutely.
lot, that's whenever I've done that, I end up having a lot of people and I was included, you end up having a credit score of 500 or
Right.
490 or something like that. You're not just going to be able to jump in and get that startup loan. You that goes into the planning of it, of understanding that
Yes.
you got to take care of your demons at home, I guess you could say, as far
Yes.
as cleaning up some stuff that your personal finances before you get the idea of jumping into business finance.
Oftentimes, absolutely, absolutely. And again, that goes along with what we're both preaching to these people to say that you to plan. You can't just wake up on a Tuesday afternoon and think this is all going to work out the way. That's not how it works. This is months, even years of planning to get going with this. If you want to be successful, if you want to have lasting power, and if you are serious, because you're absolutely right. In the beginning, you don't have any business assets. You got zero money. So of course, all they have to go after you is you personally. So that is tied to your personal credit score. So you want to make sure that, hey, you know what? I don't want that. Or maybe get your credit together, take 6, 8 months pay off those old bills, get your credit up if you know that's what they're going to do. But again, that's all part of the recon that you have to do when you're serious about starting this business venture. You're serious about moving forward. These are all the things as part of your research that you need to consider.
Is there a specific strategy that you end up coaching to business owners that kind of go to in there for financing, making sure that things are okay, or making sure that their credit score is up high enough and stuff like that? Is there a particular strategy that you kind of teach people as far as going through and making sure that that's good to go?
I don't know if I necessarily have a strategy with regard to it. I think, again, I'm going to keep saying it over and over again. I just educate them. Again, in the beginning, we have lots of conferences and seminars that we put on. And during those conferences and seminars, one of the things that comes up is capital. It's the number one question I get is capital. So again, what I tell them is that you know what your personal finances is. You know that. Only you knew that. You know what issues or hurdles you're going to have to go through. So I'm going to need you to go look at that and to know these things aren't an option. No credit unions, no banking institutions. What I would like for people to do is to not get caught up in the money trap when they're starting it, because that's a stress that you just don't need. You really don't need that stress at all. So what I like to tell them,
I apologize. I'm back. I apologize.
no worries, I'm with you.
I already got a new computer sitting there on.
No worries. We are fine. We are fine. So what we were talking about, kind of what I tell people with regard to personal finance and what that. So again, what I like to communicate and talk to my um, business owners about is to, again, plan and keep in mind that you know your personal finance situation. You know if you have to take 6 months to get your credit up. You know if you have to take 6 months of overtime to save up $5,000, because what I don't want to happen is I don't want people to get caught up in that money trap and that credit card trap initially. You don't want to start your business and you're already in debt. You're
Mm.
already in debt from whatever reasons, and then now you're going to put on another $5,000, $10,000 in debt. I really don't want that to happen. So again, I'm telling people, take your time, put together a plan. Before we get to that plan, deal with any things that are going to come be a hardship with regard to that plan. So again, that's what I'm telling people. I know you're excited. I know you want to get this cleaning business off the ground, but we're going to have to wait 6, 8 more months until we can address this. And then let's go to the next step.
Uh, what do you kind of, whenever you kind of coach a business or a startup, what is the differences that you would end up giving people that are in a small town, small business getting started up compared to somebody that's in a more populated area like Los Angeles?
I gotta tell you, I don't really think there's a difference where you are, because we all have the same challenges, right? So whether you're in Nutbush, Tennessee, or you're in San Diego, California, your problem is going to be exposure, right? So just because you're in a big town doesn't mean that you automatically have exposure, right? To be honest with you, it's probably more difficult in a bigger town. And let me tell you why. Because there's so much more competition, right?
Hmm.
So if you're in a big town like San Diego, California, and you want to go out and sell some widgets, you got 30 million other people selling those same widgets, right? So the exposure that you're trying to do is going to be different. You have to try somehow to stand apart. If you're in Nutbush, Tennessee, and you're selling widgets, you probably got one, two other people selling widgets, right? So you may think it's harder the reverse, but it's not. It's
Hmm.
harder when you're in a bigger town because there's a lot more competition. But when you're in Nutbush, you don't have it. So you just have to go do your due diligence with these two other people selling the widgets. And you're like, okay, what are they doing? How can I do that different? What am I doing? Who are they selling to? And again, it's all about marketing, advertising, promotion. That's what it is. And wherever you are, that is always going to be a challenge for
Hmm.
anybody, no matter what the industry is. You have to get your name out there, right? You have to get your product or your service out there. So again, I don't necessarily think that it's easier when you're in a large town, because again, competition. So I think sometimes it's easier when you do kind of have a smaller footprint.
And I think that one of the things that I kind of preach, and it's not just because I provide websites, but the idea of having a website compared to
Mm-hmm.
using a Facebook uh, business page or something like that. I think that to me, whenever I try to tell somebody, it's the idea of you're building the brand. You're
Mm-hmm.
not just a business that's over there in the corner that somebody might drive by. you're wanting to actually grow your business into a brand, and the way that you
Mm-hmm.
end up getting that brand is getting something like if somebody wants to see what you provide, they're going to search you on on the internet, on Google, and if you don't come up to that, it's almost like there's so many scams around anymore. They're like, "Are
Yeah.
you really,
Exactly.
really a true business?" And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that I kind of like to tell people. An idea of, I'm not just telling you this to get business. I'm trying to tell you this to, you want to be a name brand, and for that to be that, I think that people need to be able to search you on Google, I guess you could say.
Yeah,
So with
that's
that, we
absolutely it.
I think we've covered a lot, but with that, what do you think is the biggest thing that you would like to tell small business owners that we haven't really covered at this point?
I think what I'd like to say overall is that don't be afraid to seek help. Don't be afraid to seek help from other business owners. Don't be afraid to seek help to other professionals. I think what I see a lot of is that people are trying to do it alone. And I want to put it out there, you don't have to do it alone. You shouldn't do it alone. Now, I know
Mm,
people always think about, oh, price, this cost price, but to fail, what price is that? Right? If you fail because of you aren't educated properly, what's the price of that? Right? If you fail and you lose thousands of dollars, what does that price look like? Hours that you've invested. So again, don't be afraid to seek help from, and again, I'm not talking about if you're talking to your brother-in-law who used to, I'm talking about real professionals. I'm talking about other business owners. That's who I want you not to be afraid to seek help from. If you see another business owner and you're like they're getting it done or you admire what they're doing, talk to them, ask them. Create your own little community of business owners so you guys can all work together to help each other. You can create that network of people because I have to tell you, we all need it. Maybe something you have they don't, right? And
hmm
again, so I want that. So don't be afraid to seek help. Seek help from professionals. You can go to any professional person, whether it's an accountant, financial advisor, a business consultant, a lawyer, because guess what? Oftentimes that first consultation meeting, it's free, right? It's
hmm
free. So don't
Absolutely.
forget to seek help.
And that's worded perfectly. And I think that with this channel, it's one of those things that every guest that I've had on it has been a business owner, a business expert, or just a regular. I've interviewed small town business owners and stuff. And one of the biggest things that they always tell me is make sure that you put my link on there and stuff, not just necessarily to promote my business, but the idea of if somebody has a question, by all means, leave a comment, do anything, and I'd be happy to follow up with them because a good business owner wants to help other business owners. And and on that note, if you do like that information of being able to talk to other business owners and you like this channel and the content of it, please make sure to subscribe. I'd love to grow this channel and to spread it out and make sure that all the other business owners actually know about this. And it's a source of being able to get the information from business owners as well as being able to highlight business owners and let them, just like your business, you're proud of your business, of where you've raised your business, and it's great to be able to provide that. So if you haven't, please subscribe with that. With that, I've loved this interview, and I'd love to have you on, like I said, with a teaching session at some time to kind of dig into a little bit more with that and your teaching ability. So with that, I thank you for your time, and I know that we've had some issues as far as with our recording, but it's been a pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Jamie. I certainly
Uh, let
appreciate it, and I appreciate what you're doing.
let everybody know the best way to contact you and what you got going on, and as far as your website and stuff like that.
Thank you so much. So again, I'm Pepper Bethel from the TPI Group. We are at www.tpigroup.com, and we could be reached at 703-288-1998. And we're always having lots of symposiums and conferences and lunch and learns. So please be on the lookout. Check to our website. Check out my YouTube channel, which is at business_edge on YouTube, and we'd love to help you. Thank you so much, Jamie, for making this service to so many small business owners. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. So with that, hope everybody like, subscribe, leave a comment. Thank Miss Bethel for her time as far as coming on here. And like we said, leave a message, leave a comment if there is something that really touched you, or the idea that you didn't think of whenever you were starting your business, a hurdle that you are experiencing with your business, or a question that you might be able to bring up to myself or Miss Bethel. So with that, thank you for your time. Thank you everybody for viewing. Hopefully you subscribe, and there'll be a whole lot more content coming up. So with that, thank you. Have a great day and grow your business. Thanks.